going on, everybody? It's currently Friday, August 30th, 2019, and you are tuning into the 4th edition of the Five Starr Wrestling Report Review Series, where every week we recap the MLW and NXT shows from the week. If you are new to this channel and you are seeking out to hear more of the FSWR content in the future, make sure you subscribe, click that notification icon, and keep posted every week with Five Starr Wrestling's YouTube channel. Videos will be posted every Monday and Friday, with the former being a show dedicated to news discussion and weekend show recaps, and Friday being a video series dedicated to recaps of MLW, NXT, and soon to include AEW's Wednesday night show. And with the intros out of the way, let's get going with the recaps here. MLW Fusion, episode 73. Kodo Brazil, Myron Reed, and Jordan Oliver versus Zenshi, Airwolf, and Gringo Loco. We are informed during the intros that the former group here calls himself Injustice. And the reason for this being that they believe that MLW officials are intentionally screwing them over. So what happens in this match? Well, the MLW official proceeds to call the match directly down the middle and not screw over the Injustice guys. They actually had a really fun match here, I thought, but it was also one of those matches where like a million things happened in about a 15-minute stretch, so it's hard to recap everything that happened, particularly for me because when I'm watching matches like this, I don't sit there and type move for move what is going on. I will watch the entirety of the match and then do my best to recollect anything notable about it. And the thing that I wrote down about this match is everyone did a bunch of stuff. Most of it looked fine. And that's pretty much it. The heels did some jaw-jacking with the fans in the front row. The faces ran wild for a while. There's actually a really cool moment here where Zenshi hits a deadlift German pin on one of the Injustice members, and this Kodo Brazil fella breaks it up with a top rope splash, and the timing of this pinfall breakup was impeccable. There was also a point early on here where Zenshi had up one of the Injustice members in a fireman's carry, and Gringo Loco used his back to crush one of the other Injustice members with a splash. One of the Injustice guys, I think it was Reed, he ended up pulling out what Rich Piccini and Tony Schiavone referred to as brass knucks. It actually appeared to be a heavily taped gimmick in the form of brass knucks. We had a ref bump. Gringo used the gimmick on Reed. They did more stuff for a few minutes. It is at this point where I'm wondering why this match was scheduled to go 15 minutes when it really should have gone like 10. And then the heels, whose gimmick, mind you, is that they believe they are being deliberately screwed by the referees in this company, hit a move on Airwolf, and the ref counts the 3 for them without screwing them over. So the heels jump the ref after the bell because they're evil. And for anyone wondering where Gringo Loco, Airwolf, and or Zenshi were to make the save, I wondered the same thing. Never got an answer. They got their payday and they left. We receive word from the announce team that Mance Warner has been released from prison thanks to, and this is a direct quote from Rich here, Warner's uncle Buck Snort. I honestly cannot tell what is funnier. The fact that they actually bothered going through all the trouble to update us on a weeks-long story wherein we still had no idea why Mance Warner was arrested to begin with, except for the fact that Selena was responsible for it, or the idea that Mance has an uncle named Uncle Buck Snort. I hope that's not a parody character. I would have a ball watching this program every week if Mance Warner started coming out to the ring with his uncle Buck Snort. Here's something odd that I wrote down. Apparently, MLW is going to air the War Games match on their program the week after the upcoming pay-per-view. Which then begs a good question. Why would anyone want to pay for this pay-per-view if they can just wait an additional 7 days to see the big match aired for free on TV? I do not have a good answer for you. Apparently, they're betting that people will dish out money for secondary selling points, such as Brian Pillman Jr. versus Austin Aries, or Mance Warner versus Jimmy Havoc, or Los Parks versus Magnus and Septimo Dragon. If you say so. And by the way, when I say Magnus, I do not mean the TNA version of Magnus. That's not Nick Aldis. No, it is apparently a man who teams with Septimo Dragon, who I have never heard of and or have never seen on this program. We had a promo from the Von Erich family. Here's the extent of what I wrote down about this promo. Words were said about War Chamber. Ross and Marshall had the personality of tree bark. Lame baby faces. You know, you have the capability of doing more than one take for your promos. They realize this, right? You know that you can shoot multiple takes to make sure that the delivery is effective, right? Apparently not in MLW. No, with the way guys do promos in MLW, you supposedly get one take, and you get what you get at that point. I don't get it. Speaking of effective promos, we get one with Alexander Hammerstone. He's in the gym working out and training. He says he's getting ready for a big tournament in Japan with Noah. Talks about wrestling Davey Boy Smith at the next MLW show, which is not the War Chamber show, but a show that is apparently happening later on. And as he's talking about how Davey should get back in the ring to train, they pan the camera over to a woman on a treadmill, and she claims that she knows Davey from when they were little, and they apparently used to lift the current weight that Hammerstone is doing reps with at the moment. And then Hammerstone got mad and bumped up the weight machine. I did laugh at this, although probably not for the intended reason. The comedy with the woman on the treadmill might have been funnier if she actually looked like she trained a day in her life, but aside from that, the skit was fine. Hammerstone is an awesome heel. I am kind of hoping, as much as it would suck to lose him from MLW, I honestly think AEW should consider bringing this guy in. I really mean that. I mean, if MJF's going to be working with AEW, I don't know why you wouldn't bring in Alex Hammerstone. This guy's incredible. Just don't have him do that finisher that he does, where he smashes people on their knees, because that would not be fun. Jacob Fatu versus Filthy Tom Lawler for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship. Before the match, we had a promo from Joseph Samael, who was wearing what I can only best describe as the greatest devilish dress shoes I have ever seen. If I could pull that look off in public, I would totally invest in a pair of devil dress shoes. I'm a fan of Capto shoes and boots as it is. If I could find an occasion where those Joseph Samael shoes would come in handy, I'd buy a pair. Anyway, he put over Fatu for a little bit and then introduced him for the match. Tom came out seething with rage and ready to go to war with this man-beast. They had here's the best way I could sum it up. They had an old-school mean guy main event title match. Tom ran wild early on. Fatu cut him off and worked him over for the heat forever. Tom made a big fiery comeback toward the end. Samael took the ref on the apron. Tom tried to grab a hold of him and drag him into the ring. He gave Fatu a boot to the face. The ref went to check on him. Samael drove a spike into the back of Tom's head, and then Fatu hit a big top rope Samoan moonsault to retain. It's pretty much the entire match right there. It was a perfectly acceptable and fine TV main event match. And then afterwards, Contra Unit all ran out for a brawl. Von Erichs ran down to join the fray. We had about 3 to 4 minutes of dudes brawling in the ring, and after said 3 to 4 minutes with the baby faces at a distinct 4-on-3 disadvantage, it is at this point that Low Ki decides, oh hey, maybe I should make the save for my friends to even the odds. Why this took Low Ki almost an additional 5 minutes to fathom this point, I could not tell you. So Low Ki runs down, goes to town on everyone, and the show goes off air with the War Chamber guys fighting in the ring. It was an inoffensive show. I do not think they did a great job hyping up the War Games pay-per-view on Saturday. I mean, aside from the actual War Games match, pretty much every other match is just a random pairing of guys with no build-up. We'll see how it turns out on Saturday, but really not expecting a whole lot there. And again, I have to revert back to this. If you are just going to air the War Games match on TV the week after, why is there an incentive for people to buy this show? That is your main selling point of that show. If people can just wait to see it for free 7 days later, why are they going to pay for a bunch of secondary matches? It makes absolutely no sense to me. NXT, September 4th, 2019. So, this wasn't a bad NXT. There was a lot of wrestling on the show. But, pretty much all the matches, possibly excluding the last couple minutes of the main event, had typical WWE Full Sail taping crowds. And no one's really reacting to anything. It's quiet throughout the entire show. And, on the one hand, I can't blame them. It's not like the matches were particularly that interesting. But I'm just watching the show, and I'm like, WWE really thinks that they can make it all the way to the end of the year by taping these NXT shows at Full Sail, while still trying to credibly go head-to-head live with AEW on Wednesday. And meanwhile, the fans here may as well just be at a funeral. They're so quiet. Something tells me they might change their mind about this taping schedule sooner rather than later. Breezango versus Chase Parker and Matt Martell. Breezango now has theme music that is not just a mash of their themes mixed together. Parker and Martell also apparently have the best friends gimmick where they hug before every match. And they have every generic NXT squash match you've ever seen, wherein it's not really a squash match because they have to let the job guys get in a heat sequence. They did stuff for a while, and then Breezango won with what they are now referring to as the fashion faux pas. It's literally just a springboard elbow over the top rope with the one dude strung across Tyler's legs. We had a skit with Jordan Miles and Keith Lee showing up at the arena. Kathy interviews Jordan about his match with Adam Cole later in the night, says he's nervous, and then Keith Lee gives him a confidence boost, says he's been there a couple of months and he's already having the opportunity of a lifetime. They absolutely telegraphed the idea that Keith was going to cost Jordan the match in the main event. So when Keith Lee did not cost Jordan the match, I was legitimately shocked. We had Io Shirai jumping Candice LeRae in the parking lot with a kendo stick. Not a whole lot happening other than that. I am pretty sure Candice was laughing during the beatdown. Either that or her facials when she's selling pain depict that of her laughing. So maybe a second take would have been good for that one. Cameron Grimes had a promo. He informed us many times over in the course of 60 seconds that he did not win the breakout tournament, that he is at the bottom of the barrel now, and he is going to build himself back up to the top. And apparently Grimes now has a custom hat that he wears. This was so weird. The first 55 seconds of this promo indicated to me that it was intended to be taken seriously, and that Grimes has a kind of Brian Pillman-esque loose cannon character. And then in the last 5 seconds, he puts on a top hat. He walks away, and I snickered. I do not believe I was envisioned to laugh at this, but I did. Velveteen Dream versus The Finest, Kona Reeves. If you actually watch this match in a vacuum, it was two over-the-top characters just going ham on one another for a few minutes. But as you'll recall, I mentioned that while there was a lot of wrestling this week, the matches were not particularly interesting. And this match was okay, I guess. It was a very predictable match because they are setting up Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong for the title next week. So they wanted to give Dream a win here. But again, no one cared about it. It's a relatively dead crowd throughout, and they really didn't do anything to elevate the profile of either character. Velveteen's great, but him working with Kona Reeves doesn't do anything for him. And Kona Reeves is a hokey 1980s cartoon job character who actually reminds me a lot of a guy like Keith Lee, in that he's been in NXT forever. They've never done anything interesting with the guy, and all he does is lose. And it sucks to say, but I can't visualize them doing anything interesting with Kona Reeves when they're going head-to-head with AEW this fall. Anyway, after the match, Roderick Strong appears on the Jumbotron, claims that Dream wanted Strong to get his attention, so they pan the camera over, and we see that Roddy has lit Dream's couch on fire. And Dream's response to this was not pure anger or uncontrollable rage. No, rather, he just kind of looks up at the screen, tosses his belt down, paces back and forth, and goes, "Ah, crap. Now how am I supposed to cut promos every week?" Tayanara versus Bianca Belair. This was not a bad match, but for a match that went 5 minutes, not a whole lot happened. Bianca's in a weird stage of her career right now. She's still over, but boy has she cooled off a lot since the beginning of the year. I mean, I remember her being one of the hottest acts on this program every week. And ever since she lost to Shayna, it feels like she's lost a lot of momentum. Tayanara's not really a terrible wrestler or anything. She's green, obviously, but she's not Iconics level of suck. I mean, she can at least make her offense look semi-convincing. That being said, I've been hanging on to this topic for a while now, mostly because I'm just very frustrated with how women's wrestling is being featured right now. I know there are a lot of female talented athletes on the indies. I've seen a lot of great women's matches before. If you are telling me that the best level of recruitment that you can do for up-and-coming female talent in WWE features girls like Tayanara and Aaliyah and, damn it, what's that other girl's name? The one that teams with Aaliyah. Vanessa Bourne, that's it. Is that really the future of WWE's women's division right there? Because if so, I'm not impressed at all. Girls like Kaylee Ray and Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm and Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, those are real female talents. Those are women that can work well. Tayanara, Aaliyah, Vanessa, they're typical WWE developmental female talent. They all wrestle very generically. Nothing looks unique about their wrestling at all. Just, it's boring. I don't get it. Then we had the most mind-boggling segment on the show. William Regal announces that next week, there is going to be a triple threat match to crown a new number one contender for Shayna Baszler's Women's Championship. And here are the three names that Regal has put into this three-way to potentially challenge Shayna. Mia Yim, who Shayna's already beaten, Bianca Belair, who Shayna's already beaten, and heel Io Shirai, who Shayna's already beaten. Yeah, granted, Shayna has only defeated the babyface version of Io Shirai, but the point is, any of these three women I just listed could get a title match in the future, and Shayna has already beaten all of them. And not just beaten them, but has beaten them clean. And to make things even more obscure about this whole situation, it was also announced on the show that next week it is going to be Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's for the title. So, unless they swerve everyone and have Rhea win and become champion next week, our next women's championship match for NXT is going to feature Shayna Baszler versus an opponent she has already defeated. Call me crazy, but I'm not enticed. Jordan Myles versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. One thing I like to do before I analyze the details of these matches is I like to give you an overall impression of the segment as a whole. To make a long story short, what we had here was a main event title match between two really talented guys with no crowd heat because absolutely nobody bought that Jordan was winning the belt here. And the other thing here that I think played a factor was that aside from the possibility of Keith Lee running in for a DQ or something, which didn't happen, there was also a possibility of them doing a run-in with the Undisputed Era so that Cole could keep the belt without having to beat Jordan here. That didn't happen either. Instead, they had a perfectly fine match. Cole beats Jordan pillar to post. Jordan played a great babyface in peril. Then Jordan made a big comeback, got a couple near falls on Cole, and then Cole hit a pair of super kicks, hit the last call, and pinned him clean. I honestly don't think I have much else to say about it. It was a good TV main event with a surprise finish in the sense that we did not have a run-in, and Cole just beat a guy clean with a move. I have no complaints. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around whatever the point was of doing this breakout tournament to begin with. But if I view this match without the tournament in mind, it was a fine wrestling match that helped put over a new guy in the end. The crowd cheered for Jordan afterwards. They gave him an ovation. And I think they can get a lot of mileage out of him, especially if they pair him with Keith Lee for a while. So, that was MLW and NXT for the week. I don't think either show was bad. I don't think either show was great, but they were not offensive. I think that's the best way I could put it. They were perfectly acceptable TV shows. And with that, everyone, that'll do it for this edition of the review series. Again, if you are interested in keeping up with the content on this channel, check us out every Monday and Friday for new uploads. And just to show your support here, make sure you click that subscribe button, give this video a like if you don't mind, and go ahead and chime in with your feedback down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great weekend, everyone, and I'll be back on Monday.